Hey everyone, we're here today to discuss a report by the MIT Sloan Management Review, as well as the Boston Consulting Group. The title is Expanding AI's Impact with Organizational Learning. And we've only got 20 minutes, so let's dive right in, starting with David. If you could go over your thoughts on the report and just give a quick overview, as well as François. Those are the two experts from that actually co-authored the report. So let's start there.
Thanks, Emil. This report is the fourth report on AI that MIT Sloan Management Review and BCG has done on the AI topic. And for this year's report, we surveyed 3,000 managers and companies around the world. We interviewed executives and academics, about 15 of those. And we were really focused on trying to understand those organizations that were getting significant financial benefit from AI. And significant financial benefit in this context means like, companies that are using AI to generate about 5 to 10% of their overall revenues. And we found that there was something very specific that those organizations were doing that other companies weren't. And that had to do with learning with AI. And we're going to get into a lot of specifics around what that actually means. But in broad strokes, the companies that were getting the most value from AI were they were able to use AI, design AI systems to learn by themselves. Humans were able to learn from AI, and AI was able to learn from humans. And those three different dimensions of learning were companies that were able to master those three things were able to generate 5 times the amount of value from, they were 5 times more likely to generate significant financial benefits than companies that were just using one of those types of learning.
And you found that only 10% of organizations were able to actually benefit from that financially?
Significantly.
Right.
Significant, only 10%. And so the whole report is really focused on what that 10%, the essential characteristics of those, of that 10% group. François?
And I wanted to say that to be in this 10%, their main objective, as you said, is really to learn and to increase the rate of learning. But they need to do that. They need to change their mindset. Instead of asking, how could AI help me optimize my current processes? They really need to think about how should you design your processes to put human plus AI at the core of your operating model. And if I were to use, I would say, a historical metaphor, it's a little bit like tanks in World War II. The French army, and I'm French, said that, let's say tanks in their infantry regiments, and it optimized the power of these regiments. But the German army actually created tanks regiments and invented the Blitzkrieg. And as we are just at the beginning of what AI can do, I think this is really something we need to keep in mind. It's really about putting human plus AI at the core of your operating model.
And François, you wanted to talk about, we had a call yesterday discussing this a little bit. You wanted to talk about how there's the traditional sectors that benefited especially?
Yes, of course. And basically what we see that is not just for, let's say, digital native companies, it's for all industries. And in this report, we detail several industries, but one that I like, and several companies, but one I really like is Repsol, because it's a Spanish oil and gas incumbent. So it's very far from being traditional. Let's say it's very traditional. But what they did, that they embraced this change. And since 2018, they launched more than 150 projects related to AI. It was from optimizing their drilling operations to really personalizing their offers at the gas stations. And the results are fantastic. And it's important to have it all along the value chain. And Valerio Marin, their CDO, said that now AI is the cornerstone of the transformation in every business unit.
So speaking of traditional companies, we also have Mark from Stanley Black & Decker Mark, how have you been able to quantify the benefits of AI at your company?
Well, Emil, as the report indicates, being a diversified industrial and business for 177 years across global tools and storage, engineered fasteners and industrial, as well as security and health, we found AI to be critical in all of our activities. So this month, for example, is Makers Month, and we're celebrating 31 skilled trades on our website at stanleyblack.com, and every single skill there is actually AI empowered. And we're even seeing the job definitions change. So whether or not you're looking at using AI to learn and optimize in supply chains, Industry 4.0, robotics, IoT, in manufacturing, or even our back-end operations in IT, finance, HR. We just launched our 100th virtual employee. Robotic process automation saves us tens of millions of dollars a year. So even in our products, you talk about smart tools, you talk about predictive analytics in healthcare. We have a device that can call Foresight, which is the market leader. 30 to 40 days ahead of time, it can predict someone's going to have a fall by gait analysis. So AI really is transforming everything from supply to manufacturing to operations, and also human learning. We can talk more about that later.
Yeah, I mean, David did talk about the learning that humans get from AI as well as AI from humans. So is that something, I mean, if you want to expand on that, David or François or even Gail, if you're seeing that at your company?
Yeah, I think it's, as François and David mentioned, humans and AI is at the core. Because at Mercer, we have our surveys, we have workforce analytics. In the consulting industry, I do believe these assets with AI and humans come together nicely to provide value to our clients. We're able to take the knowledge that we have along with the subject matter experts, and they learn together through tuning and iteration and agile. But I think what we've done, and it's called out in the report, is that there's a product owner, a business architect that focuses on AI to bring them both together to drive value. So a lot of our core businesses has AI at the core, but it starts with the human, teaching the algorithm teaching the human. And as it says in the report, when you are able to apply these different interactions, you drive significant value and output.
Yes, and I think that what you say, Gail, is interesting in the sense that we need to understand how to make AI and human interact together and playing on the strengths of each of them. And we all know that humans are much better with, let's say, ambiguity, new situation, that AI loves to crunch large amount of data. And what is interesting is the fact that we identify in this report 5 types of interactions between human plus AI: who will recommend, who will execute, who will decide. And companies that are able to master these 5, let's say, modes of interactions, and to, of course, split them appropriately depending on the context, are, as you said, David, too, is 6 times more likely to have significant financial benefits. So it's a very, very important point.
Yeah, I further found the report in terms of the themes of discovery, building AI, scaling AI, and organizational learning was powerful to me, because it's not just about the technology and the tools. It's like you've given us a roadmap to think about how your 7 key areas fit into a framework for us to use and apply to our businesses, to our organizations, to our colleagues. Because they too, the colleagues are looking for a way to participate in this journey. And I believe, as the report states, that the colleagues are so key to the success. and that success comes when they're together. What do you think, Francois?
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree with that. But I think that what we need to realize as well is the fact that AI doesn't yet have the acceptance of society, because on what you said, we can see in our research that 77% of employees who know AI actually trust its decision, versus 33% of the ones who don't know AI. So which means that the more you know, the more you trust. And therefore, it's great to have, let's say, when you look at the initiative that the Finnish or the Estonian governments have to try to give all the basics of AI and to familiarize their entire population with it, I think this is critical, because there is a lack of education, and this is it's a big, let's say, hurdle for the AI adoption and to put human plus AI at core. And I think, Mark, maybe that you have some similar experience.
Yeah, François, I think, just building on what Gail said and what you said, a couple of points. One is, in addition to not knowing AI, people actually, it's worse than that. People fear AI. They're afraid AI is going to take away their job. And indeed, we know robots can do dull, dirty, and dangerous tasks, and should. But it turns out a recent study by the Center for Economic Policy Research on 1,900 Spanish manufacturers found that those who did not invest in robotics reduced human employment by 20%. Those who invested in robotics increased employment by 50%, 70% differential. And actually, we've seen the same pattern. If you look at McKinsey's study of computing, the personal computer, again, almost 3 million jobs destroyed, but almost a net of almost 16 million generated. So we believe AI actually can generate new opportunities and generate new wealth. And just the final point, making the AI accessible. Companies like Ready Robotics, Tulip, others, which make the systems learnable by humans and usable cooperatively, are critical. Also, making AI help humans learn. We're working with the National Science Foundation Convergence Accelerator in UMass, using AI to assess skills and then to use AI to train people. BCG, for example, in their work with Biometrics, we've applied neuroscience so we understand human cognitive capabilities. So we can match the humans to humans and humans to machines. And finally, we've used AI in this really cool application already in 32 of our plants called Deep How. It came out of a Techstars accelerator. And that capability uses vision and natural language processing to basically allow people to use their cell phone and record their activities, capture their knowledge, and transfer that knowledge to other humans multilingually. And so I think AI really is, as you pointed out earlier, David and François, it's transformative. It's not that it can do stuff that we do today faster. It can put us to a completely new quantum leap plane of capability.
Yeah, just, there's an interesting twist on that a point about AI and job loss. One of the points that we make in the report that we didn't really play up that much was that 77% of companies think that that incumbents in their industry are going to be using AI, and this is a strategic risk. And they also think that 79% of respondents said that they think new incumbents are going to be coming in with AI. So AI might actually cause job loss, not from automation, but from new competition that's using AI and putting you out of business. So,
oh, definitely. I do think that, the startups are really looking to apply AI in new and innovative ways. And that has to be on every CDO or CIO's mind, is how will data be monetized or disruptive to your current business. And it's those companies, I believe, David, that is in the not caught on their back foot for sure, but definitely looking to see around the corner, to try to see around the corner, and where does AI help their organizations. What I liked about the report, it talks about an organizational shift and a mindset shift. And I think that, coupled with looking at the mega trends and the trends of AI and where the startups are, helps a company start to make those organizational changes that are necessary.
But that's true. But I can see that we have more and more with, let's say, the rate of change and the magnitude of change with COVID, and it will be perennial. We can see that now even AI is changing, and I would say that the freshness and the large volume of data actually changes the decision-making process that we see at our clients. And I was with an underwriter the other day who was telling me that, yes, now with this ability to have what I would call almost data alchemy, which is to look at everything that you have at the moment as long as it is fresh, the ability to have to predict default was much accurate than the previous way of doing it. So I think that we are just at the beginning of this transformation, and we need to stay in touch. And companies need to stay in touch if they want to keep a competitive advantage.
Yeah, absolutely. We have Mercer, Oliver Wyman released a COVID-19 pandemic navigator, a way to see the pandemic in a different way, right? For companies to make decisions about opening their offices based on real-time data. But it also needed that human aspect as well. So we have the tools, but we also need to have the leaders, the managers think differently about the impacts and effects that the data has on their current work environment, their current staff, how they would think about the return to work. And so just bringing it all together in a way that drives the right organizational learning. What did we learn together, bringing AI at the core?
Final thought, I think, continuous learning, as you're pointing out, Gail and Francois, those organizations that will win in the 2020s will optimize human learning and machine learning to succeed.
Yeah, and on that note, we are already out of time somehow. But the good news is, anyone who wants to can read the report. It's 20 pages, so it's very much digestible. And yeah, feel free to reach out to David and François to find out more if you have questions. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.